2, hit it. Right through it, John. Best one yet. Come on. Nice. No mercy. There it is. Three, come on. My biceps started to tear a little. There. Yeah. Good, man. Come on. 3, 2, 5. Good, John. Come on. 3, 2, 6. 3, 2, 7. Oh, that's it. Good. There were no 6.
Who is this anyway? Who are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Mike Bartos. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mike.
All right, how you guys doing today? Good. So I'm fired up, get some training with John going. Just hit his first set of RDLs, 365 for 6.
Yeah.
So go to 415 and get rolling.
Notice he's got bands on it. So it's not the weight of the bar, it's also the weight of the bands. Come on, Mike. Nice.
There you go.
2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3, 7. All right, stop there. Up. 8.
Nice and easy.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you short. I'm just trying to conserve your energy. Wow, this is a really bad idea because we were having so much great conversation off camera and now we're just
breathing heavy.
I usually have these take like 3.5, 4 minutes.
Perfect. Oh, so you do use rest breaks?
I do use rest breaks,
Thank
yes.
gosh.
Oh.
I can't tell you how many people I work out with that just don't believe in them. I'm like, how do you not believe in a rest break?
Yeah, I think the higher the higher the demand of every set.
Yeah.
On a break, heavy days, I'll take 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And full recovery and focus on quality.
Nice.
Yep, so we're hitting a banded RDL against a stack band. So the bottom band and top band combined, just about 240 at lockout. So when John's going, you're looking at 365 at the bottom, about 605 at the top. So on a volume day today, the main goal isn't maximal strength. It's building up strength in supplemental movements that are gonna transfer over to our main movements. So on an RDL like this, you know, building up weak positions and also some hypertrophy are the goal. So having those bands on is creating an enormous amount of tension all the way through. And when you get into an advantageous position at the top, where the lift should be the easiest, you're getting smacked with that band on the top, forcing you to drive the hips all the way through to lockout.
It's like no mercy RDL.
No mercy.
One thing I learned from Mike is that, and the reason I'm here is because I'm a big fan of his products as well as his knowledge. So I follow you on Instagram and I actually read the descriptions of all this training stuff because there's actually gold in those guys. I highly encourage you to just go through Mike's Instagram, just kind of like poke your way down and just read the captions on some of his training days because it's brilliant stuff. But the bands build strength at the point before even the bands like kick in is what I learned from you.
Yeah,
so it's not like building strength at the top of the lift, it's building strength all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, and especially like in that training for maximal strength, I really like reverse bands because so I traditionally struggle off the ground. And so if you have a reverse band, say you have 100 pounds of assistance at the bottom, but by the time that band is stretched up a couple inches, you're only at 30 or 40 now, you're handling actually a super maximal load above what your maximal capacity is throughout the rest of the range of motion. So once that band drops off, you're handling this enormous load and almost, not the same thing, but almost similar to isometrics. If you do isometrics off the ground or one pit up, you're gonna get that effect of about 15% above and below or 15 degrees above and below. Same thing on there, you start to pull and now all of a sudden you have that load above your maximal capacity and there's gonna be a transfer up and down.
Right.
Come on, strong man, up, 1, 3, 2, 2, go ahead, John. 3, 2, 3, come on. 3, 2, 7, go ahead, man, finish it. 2, 8, easy, John, good man. Have a good set.
So we're talking about failing the deadlift off the floor.
Oh man,
all right.
it's
spread some
stable.
context.
It'll go from what looks like a speed pull to it doesn't even move.
Yeah.
Within 10 pounds.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of deficits. Obviously deficits are gonna have a transfer over, which has helped me out quite a bit. Isometrics have helped out quite a bit. And for people who don't know what isometrics are, so you have 3 different contractions. There's an eccentric where the muscle's actually getting longer, that's like lowering the weight. Concentric, where you're actually lifting the weight up. And then isometric is there's no movement going on, so that's pushing and pulling against immovable things. So, the only way to really exert maximal force against something is to have a really slow velocity. So like if John, he pulls 675, if he were to deadlift 405, that lift is gonna happen so fast, he doesn't actually have time to exert maximal force because that takes time to ramp up. It's like pushing gas pedal down on the car.
Oh.
So like for you, if we were to set up pins in the bottom and do isometrics, or we got that attachment down there to do quick release work, where you're pulling against isometric and then get a trigger release, you're gonna spend more time in that weak position, which is a good thing.
Do you have that attachment here?
Yeah, we have that attachment here. We can hook it up.
I want to do one right at the end of these sets.
Yeah, that stuff that gets a huge carryover, and the combination of spending a lot of time in that position and exerting maximal force in that position, you know, you build a lot of strength. So that might be good stuff to get you stronger off the ground.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. And obviously you make this power center.
Yep. Yep. This is our PR platform. Yeah, this is actually the second one ever made.
Oh, really?
And so I love it. I have like an emotional relationship with this thing.
Oh. All right, Mike. So you are an inventor of amongst other things. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pretty cool experience so far. I actually feel really fortunate, you know, being around this for quite a bit of time and allowing this to have cool opportunities like today, and get to have training be a center of my life is pretty awesome.
How did you stumble into this? Like, what motivated you at first?
Well, honestly, being a gym owner, the first few products we made, I never had any intention of selling them.
Yeah.
I was just making them for myself, and
Aha, scratch your own itch.
yeah,
That's my business model.
yeah, and it's really like I've loved, like deadlifting is actually the thing that made me get addicted to strength training.
Yeah.
Like I remember the exact day I was at a January 1st, I forget what year it was, like some overnight youth group thing, and they had it at a place that had a gym, and I remember there was just a bar laying on the ground, so I had a buddy that was pretty strong for a young kid, freshman in high school, and there was 275 on the bar, so he bent over and picked it up. I couldn't budge it. 225, couldn't budge it.
Yeah.
185, started to pull on it, comes up a little bit, lock it out, and I don't know, just like the way it felt.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am 19 years later, still lifting and training and enjoying every second of it.
Love it first
Yep.
lift. This is a basement gym. Pretty impressive.
Come on, Doc. 1, 3, 2, 2. Come on, Doc. 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 5, 2, 8. Very good, man. Nice move. Chop.
I forgot what you told me with the attention. I gotta know how much it is.
Just about 240. So,
All right.
right around there at the top. How often do you do RDLs as part of your training, John?
Not often.
Not often?
No, I don't have a reason for it.
Yeah. Now I know you've done a good amount of training on your PR platform. Have you ever done any band setups besides, I've seen the reverse band, things like that. Have you ever tried a stack band setup like this?
No, not too often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because for me, you're more structured in your training from talking to you.
Yes.
You know what, 10 days, blocks, this number of blocks is these days. For me, it's just like, well, if I throw this random stuff on here, I'd have to do it again in order to understand.
I agree with you.
So that's what I'm thinking is why I haven't tried something to me, that's complex.
Yeah, I understand.
So.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the elevated band setup, not necessarily stacked where there's multiple layers, but like if you were to incorporate some deficit pulls into your training, I'm doing this block and it's working really well, is I actually set the band up so I'm not making contact with it off a 3-inch deficit until the bar is 3 inches off the ground. So I'm so deconditioned down in that low position, just lifting the weight up off the ground is creating a stimulus down there because I haven't been down there for so long. So I don't want it to be super heavy. I'm going to transition to that in the next block. So it keeps the weight a little bit lighter, but then by the time I get to the ground, where that weight would normally be super light, and I would coast through it using a weight comparable to what I would use on deficits, I'm hitting that second band, and it's actually making me force my hips through and fight all the way to the top. So, like, I think that's a good setup. I remember back a long time ago when I was young, I don't know if you remember the name Brent Mikesel, and he was at the world record in the squat for a while, back in the multiply days, like a super deep 1147, I think. And so he used to do all his reverse bands off a deficit, and it was the same rationale, being a little bit bigger, a little bit stiffer, lightening up down there where it could be dangerous and get heavier when you're in an easy position.
Good, come on. 2, 3, 2, 1, 3. 3, 2, 1, 2. One more rep, come on. 3, 2, 1, 8. Best one yet, come on. Nice. That's it. Good work.
Thank you, sir. Woo, good pull, man.
Yeah.
Very good. You want to mess around with that quick release?
Yeah, I do.
All right, awesome.
So if you guys know what distraction deadlifting is, it's when you throw a band in the front. It forces you to kind of like really pull the bar closer to you, which I think we're doing a special exercise at the end of this workout, which you guys are going to want to see the special exercise. But right now he's got a contrast system set up, which, does it do the same thing?
No, sir. No, so we're actually, here is creating an isometric contraction at the bottom. 6 years ago now, I was trying to overload the bottom of my deadlift. I guess longer than 6 years, probably 8 years ago. So I created a lever system in the gym. So when I would get down there, there was a lever on it, was an arm on a hinge.
Yeah.
And that arm sat on top of the bar. And you plate loaded it or band loaded it. So when you would lift, the first few inches would be heavy.
Yeah.
And then once the bar got a couple inches off the ground, the arm would fall off and you go back to straight weight.
It's almost like a weight releaser.
Yeah, overload bottom. So the problem was, it was super clumsy. You know, like, depending on how you got set up, and you couldn't do multiple reps with it, and it was like really a pain in the butt to get it set up. But one day, I was trying to do some power cleans with it, and I'm not a lifter, so, you know, weightlifter, so I go to clean the bar, and it was only 225 or 245, but I had 100 pounds on top of it. And when that arm fell off, it almost felt like someone shot the bar up from underneath. And then coincidentally, I was living with the kid at the time. 2 or 3 days later, I'm reading Science and Practice of Strength Training, which was his book. And I read about quick release method, which was written about since the 60s and 70s, so which is actually a trigger release. And in the application that they talked about, they were talking about javelin throwers. So they would go back in their throwing position, trigger release, so they couldn't go any further. And then when the mechanism was released, they'd exert more force. And the way it's described in Science and Practice Strength Training is like a finger flick. So when you're down there pulling, you know, you gotta think, you flick a kid in school. So
you got the stink bugs in the gym.
Hold on.
That's it.
You're here and you let go of the thumb, bam.
Yeah, so if you try and flick, and this is, not me, this is Science and Practice Strength Training. So if you try and flick without your thumb, you only flick so hard. When you put your finger against your thumb, you flick significantly harder, because all that thumb is doing is allowing the middle finger more time to create tension, because it takes time for your body to ramp up to maximal force. That's why isometrics work. And that's why if you want to get strong, you have to lift heavy weights. Because you're literally allowing your body more time to exert as much force as it possibly can. So this is, so you think about this, John, you pull 675. If you want to pull 650 off the ground, you might be able to do that once or twice in a workout, right? Well, here, you pull against that thing as hard as you possibly can. You're exerting 650 or 675, but now because it's only in that little range of motion, when the trigger release is done, you go back to straight weight, that weight flies up super easy, and you don't carry the fatigue of lifting it the entire range of motion.
So you don't just have to fail to lift.
What's that?
You don't just have to fail.
Yeah, you don't just walk away and cry. You walk away and smile at the end of it.
All right.
So. And I didn't think we were going to be doing this today. There's usually some washers in here and stuff to tighten that sucker up and whatnot. That's a little bit clumsy for the time being, but.
So you pull on this?
Yes, John's going to get in there and pull as hard as he possibly can. And I'm going to be holding him motionless on the ground. And then when I let go, he's going to be putting all that force into the barbell that was ramping up during that isometric contraction. With this, if you got a pretty strong person and you're holding this, you probably want to brace yourself a little bit. When you get a decent amount of weight on, but this is pretty light for John, less than 50%. So, you really want to kind of sit back and make sure he doesn't take you for a ride. So, John, how about it's just going to be a 1-2 count.
All right.
So get locked in. We'll go 2 seconds. All right. Ramp up as hard as you can, then I'll let it go. All right. And then how about this? After you lock out, bring the weight back down and go directly into a second rep after a slight pause.
Okay.
All right.
Do I touch the bottom or?
Yeah, go down and just restart.
Okay. Ready?
Yep. 1, 2, hit it! Right through it, John. Hup. Nice and easy.
All right.
Good, man.
Do another.
1, 2, hit it! There we go.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Hup. Very good. That second looked like you kind of had the groove where you felt like in a little better position?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't have someone that's super strong, like my wife holds me on these, and she weighs about 125 pounds. I think positioning is important. Usually once I get like 405, 455 on there, she's good to hold. But I have videos of customers where they'll set a keg up or something in their garage or a bench, and they'll actually have their kids holding it. You know, these are 8, 9-year-old younger kids. So it's not like it's gonna throw you forward a whole bunch because you have a pretty big advantage with that sheave on, and there's still a considerable amount of weight on there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to do one more.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of fun.
I was gonna say, I think
It
you
feels
like it.
when you're about to, all right, imagine you load up a deadlift higher than you can lift. You know it's much, much higher than you can do. And you go to try to do it, it feels like shit, right? Because you do it, and then it's just like, that's it. Well, all of a sudden this, you just start flying up. It feels safe. It's like, it's okay to fail this.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna fail.
Yeah.
You have a weight
and you really want to think on this when you're pulling. Yeah. It's like putting your foot down on the gas pedal. You just want to keep ramping up, ramping up, ramping up. You don't want to time the release. You want to be pulling as hard as you can, then the release just happens. Come on, John. 1, 2, hit it. There we go. Come on, man. Nice and smooth. Good job.
That's fun.
Yeah, and that second rep feels pretty fast.
That's a lot of fun. You just feel like you're just building it up down there and it just goes.
Yeah.
That's really satisfying.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
And I even, the nice thing is with the PR platform, so like we have a separate contrast platform that you could just stand on, but here, you're not subjected to just going off the ground. So let's say if you're weak right around the knee, you could actually either do one of two things. You could have a partner kind of guide you up to the knee.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you pull, you hit the knee and they stop you, or you could start off the pins, you know, to get the isometric in that position. And now there's a lot of different ways of attacking strength, and you see a lot of people online that they actually do a pause deadlift. So they pull, they stop, and they're actually bracing. And like, listen, if you're super strong and that works for you, that's fine. I've never got a huge carryover out of those. Just the idea of taking my foot off the gas mid-rep is not anything that's ever seemed like I was gonna get a huge transfer out of it. So
Spud told me the same thing.
Yeah.
So the pause deadlifts, the problem with it is, for me, you see it, it's like a large part of your deadlift problem, John, is it's actually a confidence issue. How is it building confidence if you pause there?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're teaching yourself, you take the foot off the gas. And so let's say if you're pausing, say you're using 80%, you know, of your 1 rep max, or you're at 545. So you go to pull and you're stopping here. Well, if the bar's not moving, I know exactly how much you're putting into it. 545.
Yeah.
We're trying to put 7 into it because we want 7 to come up, not 545.
Right.
So if you pull and a partner stops you there and you're continuing to pull as hard as you can, then you're actually producing a bunch of force in that position and not just kind of hanging out with submaximal weights.
Yeah.
So like, this is something that if you're doing this, you don't need a ton of volume on it. When I first started doing this, we had the lever machine that I told you about. And then when we transitioned to this, I went really overboard with the volume. Like sometimes I was doing up to 30 reps in one workout.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to recover from it. So this is something that if you are training on a type of split where you have like a dedicated speed day, you could do this with submaximal weights where you can maybe start the first rep or the first 2 reps and then even go into a contrast where you don't have an iso start. But if you're doing this, say you have like a block approach or you follow more of a linear approach, you could back up your deadlifts with this as a secondary exercise. And I found somewhere between 5 to 10 training reps is pretty easy to recover from, and you get a pretty big transfer from that. I think I haven't met anyone that gets into that 15, 20 plus range that recovers very well, because you are pulling maximally and that can be pretty taxing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good with 6 reps, so.
Yeah, especially after 24 reps or 22 reps on an RDL. After the pulls, we're planning on getting into some hack squats.
Yeah, so now.
Yeah, hack squats. So this is 3rd time I've used this particular machine. I think John has something like this. We're down to just 1 set on this today, so.
All right, we got our calf hack. Let's look at this stance.
Well, his stance is the same as his deadlift stance. He's trying to find carry over there.
It's lower, so like Mike said earlier, he's trying to bias the quads a little more.
Yeah, I've always lacked in my quads, and we're actually going to do something in a couple exercises. I've gotten a huge transfer from leg presses, you know, that we've discussed, getting the leg press down here eventually, but this is 3rd week on here. I've gotten a huge carryover from my quads from backward sled drags.
Okay.
And I think one of the benefits with that is just the amount of volume you could do with really out getting, not getting super sore.
Yeah.
Because it's not that huge eccentric loading like this. So I think the combination of these and the backwards drags will jack the quads up pretty good today.
That's good, yeah. I know a lot of Westside guys implement the feeder workouts with the backward sled drags and fires and stuff. A lot of that will burn up your quads, but also I think so much of it has such a little eccentric component, which is the lowering phase, and that's what's most stressful to the muscle.
Yeah.
So when you take that out and it's only concentric that you're kind of supplementing everything else with, it does create a recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found, this is strange, that when I started having to do cardio all the time for my bodybuilding prep, it blew my legs up.
Yeah.
Because it's just, cardio is a lot of non-eccentric, you know what I mean? And it's just, my legs are always a little pumped after a cardio session in the morning. So.
It's pretty cool. So I guess this underscores the importance of fatigue and resource management with training.
Absolutely. If you can't recover, you can't. It doesn't matter how good the training is or how good exercise selection is. If you can't recover from it, it's no good.
That's something you had said earlier about you look ahead to your next session.
So that's where, not only looking ahead to the next session, but, tying each session into the next session, each 10-week wave into the next 10-week wave, each 4.5-week block into the next 4.5-week block, and then, usually stacking up 3 or 4 blocks for like 13.5 weeks or 18 weeks, driving towards one particular goal, and then going a step further than that, saying, okay, how's this goal going to tie into the next goal? So even as I've been losing weight, I'm thinking a couple cycles ahead. So once my body weight gets down to a certain point, how am I going to be able to adapt my training to now start putting some muscle back on? So like, how are these sessions right now actually going to be an advantage 6 or 7 months from now when the goals have changed?
It's pretty cool to be able to.
I love that perspective. That's something sorry, I'm just sitting here like talking on this machine over here. That's something, when I used to do a lot of the acrobatics and I was peaking for that in my youth, I'm kind of past my prime in that now. That was the mindset I had when I had a session. It's like, how many more reps of the skill is going to impede my recovery for the next time I have to do this? And how important are those reps? If I scratch these off, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then I would just like start cutting volume off at the end of the session, like cap it, like, hey man, like another 20 minutes is going to burn me out from the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you get past that emotional side, of it, programming becomes a lot easier. We touched on that a little bit earlier, but also at the same time, I can't emphasize this point enough. I think a lot of people think that, they almost have a mindset, like I'm not, the strongest person in the world. I'm trying to just capitalize on how strong I can be because I like the process of it and I think it's fun. And to be quite honest with you, I think that even going into this, I don't see myself as a strongman. I don't see myself as a powerlifter. I see myself as somebody that loves to train and wants to share that with people. And so I think a lot of people, when they come to planning their training, they think, well, you have to be a professional athlete to put that much thought into it, or you have to be at the very, very top. I think if you're just beginning, you could probably get away with doing something very basic. But once you're out of that stage, the more thought you put into it, the more mistakes you make, and the more that experience adds up, the better you're going to be in the long run. And I tell kids all the time, experience is a great teacher, but only if you pay attention. You could have a great teacher in your classroom, but if you skip class every day, or you sleep during class, you still don't learn anything. So, actually as you're training, keeping mental notes, how do I feel? And if you go to the next session and you still can't train, you have a very clear indication of what you should do. Time to pull back. Yeah. And if you go several months like that, time to pull back. Or if you feel great, maybe it's time to throw a little bit more back in. So if you pay attention, it's easy, I think, after you have a little bit of knowledge to really individualize things for yourself from a recovery standpoint and a long-term planning standpoint.
Yeah, the way he structures his workouts, he doesn't structure a workout unless he's thinking about all the other workouts around it. That really makes you have to force leaving your ego at the door on any particular day.
Yeah, and I made that mistake for years. Sometimes I look back and I think, man, I wish in my mid-20s, like I thought the way that I thought right now. Like there was a lot of frustrating experiences and years where there was lack of progress. And looking back at that, like I was responsible for every single one of those moments.
Yeah.
Just making immature decisions, bad programming decisions, not being calculated enough in other areas of my life. And so that checking the ego at the door. And sometimes I even think within a session, if you plan really well and the session's not there that day, you got to do the hardest thing, which is maybe say it's just not going to happen and rather just walk that metaphorical plank, back off, be smart, come back the next day.
That's what
the weights are going to be there.
you guys like Clarence Kennedy. We all know you do. And I think one of the things I do remember from Clarence is like, Clarence, what do you do if you're having a bad workout day? I walk out of the gym. That's just it. He's an Olympic lifter.
Yeah.
So when you start messing up on that type of stuff, like,
It's not forgiving.
I keep wanting to like throw my hands forward on this exercise, but it's like then you're gonna slide off the damn thing, so you gotta. Alright.
Yeah, I really like the way the machine feels as far as the groove. I almost wish like the seat was angled out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like you're going to slide a little bit.
We are here, top set, calf hack to failure.
You only get one set. One. Nice. Three, come on.
Why? My bicep started to tear a little.
Started to tear.
Yeah, my bicep did. How about that shit?
What?
Oh! I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
I've never seen someone tear out.
Yeah, my bicep started to tear a little bit.
You're holding on.
Yeah.
It's full body tension right
No.
there.
Yeah, I'm almost nervous to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just spasmed?
No, it was starting to tingle a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Hup.
Oh, I see why you did it though, because when it starts to get heavy, you start to pull.
Start to pull a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up on mine too. Okay, hold on.
Come on, bub. Hup. Go ahead, John. Hup. Go ahead, man. Come on. Hup. Hup. Good, buddy. Hup. Go ahead, John. Hup. Okay. Good, man. How you hit?
12.
Huh?
I can see how I did it though, because when this starts to lower, it starts to kind of pull on your arm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So this will be, I think, pretty light for us. So we could start here. I want to see how this arm feels.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if you want to do, John, for this, I drag down, you drag back as like a warm-up.
Yeah.
And then we can throw a little bit more weight on.
Okay.
How's that arm feel?
Yeah, it feels good.
All right.
Yeah, as long as my arm's straight, I'll be good.
All right, the guy
Yeah.
partially tears his bicep on a hack squat, and then just sled drag feels good.
No, it'll be good.
Mike's a boss. Come
It'll be all
on.
right. Come on, Doc. Good, buddy.
And what is that? One kid you train, come in here and do this, and keep your hot
Water tank. Yeah, they get the instruction not to get too close, but sometimes that doesn't help.
Yeah. So one time when I was younger and I was too stupid, didn't know any better, I wore ankle weights, little inserted weights. And I was practicing my kicks in my parents' garage. Because I watched Dragon Ball Z and they trained with the weighted ankle weights, and I thought that was cool. So I do a 540 kick or a tornado kick with ankle weights on, and one of the ankle weights flew out of the thing, hit the hot water heater, and left a dent in it that was like a triangle. And I was like, shit.
Nothing, you didn't no full puncture?
No.
Lucked out.
Yeah, there was a big dent in that hot water heater from ankle weights, so.
Mom and Dad love
You
it.
gotta be careful. Yeah, Mom and Dad loved it. You gotta be careful training around hot water heater guys if you train in your parents' house. Ooh.
Get it, Mike.
Hard step, buddy. Come on, Doc. Go, bud. Oh, go. I guess we can jump back into it and take a little break after the second one.
Yeah, a gnarly video idea. Sled drags versus mode.
Take a little short break and get into it.
That's pretty hard.
So that was our first set.
First set. First set, we hit 4 of those. So yeah, like John said, you know, this is a good single leg movement.
4 sets of 2?
Yeah. Well, I was kind of going back.
Get over here like blah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I like this thing. I actually, I had a hamstring issue probably almost 2 years ago now. And so I wasn't able to do any real squatting, deadlifting or anything. And all I really did was starting out light kettlebell swings into eventually power pin after we got those things made and backward sled drags. And tell you what, work capacity went through the roof.
Yeah.
And it was weird. When I went back into the barbell, I was stronger within 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, this kind of stuff builds up a good work capacity. I like doing things on here where like, you'll do 5 down and backs, super heavy with longer rest breaks, and then drop down to like 50 or 60%. cut the rest break down, and then continue to hit down and backs with the lighter weight. And so you're building strength in the beginning, work capacity at the end, and you could do a ton of volume on this without any soreness, which is nice. Because if you were to do 10 sets of lunges or 10 sets of split squats, you'll probably end up being banged up for a couple weeks.
Because there's no eccentric.
Yep, no eccentric. Yep.
Just literally, doesn't make it any easier though. He's got that nice feedback and back touches the wall. Damn.
Come on, Hop. Hit it, move, man. Few feet, man. 5 feet. Come on. Ah, good.
I went to feather.
Oh, you all right?
Damn, dude.
Yeah, he's
This
fine.
is harder than it looks.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, this turf, the weight sticks to it pretty good. When we rack at the gym, before we saw that building, the turf wasn't nearly as coarse.
Yeah.
So here, 2 plates. When we were over there, it was like 4 plates on each post.
Oh.
And so this is not an easy turf to pull on. So
But hey.
take a little break.
I think you're exceptional at it, and I'm exceptionally bad at it.
So it's a great combination. It's a great combination.
You're at
Jesus
set
Christ,
3.
the left is button.
Get strong. There it is. Come on, man.
Good. Good work.
Oh, wait, don't lean against that one.
Not the pipe.
Not the pipe, just the wall.
I tried to switch my legs there again.
Yeah.
I felt like I was gonna die.
All right, so this is a floor glute ham raise or a Nordic leg curl.
Yeah.
And so, this is an exercise that's pretty tough at just body weight. And I mean, there are machines on the market that for assistance, I'm actually gonna be getting one here soon. But for the time being, we'll get set up in this position. Typically, just like how you're gonna perform a glute ham, the implement's a little bit different, the piece a little bit different. We're gonna hook a band up like this under our armpits, almost like a strap. So we'll have about 35 pounds of assistance on here. And that'll actually be taking a little bit of the load off as we're going up and down, because I found on these, being strict to the full range of motion, especially being strict on the eccentric on the way down, I get a lot more out of it than just like a quick drop, flop off the pad and throw myself back up. So, nice and controlled on the way down, powerful on the way up, somewhere between 8 to 12 on these for 3 sets. And I've used a little bit less than this in the past, just kind of get a feel for the day, a little bit more spread out, see how things are feeling. We can adjust weight if we need.
Yeah, you
You get the good view.
Lat pull down in your gym. Well, you also have a GHD variant. Wow, look at this. Good, how many are you gonna do?
12.
Oh, wow. Get it. Killing it.
Get it, Mike.
Wow. And cheer you on, but why did you choose this one over like a traditional glute ham?
I think that, this is a lot more challenging.
Okay.
I'm actually right now, I am trying to progress to the point where I could do these with just body weight.
Okay.
Which I can squeeze out 1 or 2 ugly ones right now. So I've gradually been reducing weight as the weeks go on. It's a lot more challenging variation. And just even with the way the pad is set up, when I go over on that glute ham with body weight, I can do 40 or 50 reps.
Yeah.
Continuously if I wanted to. And here it's just a lot more challenging variation. So steadily progressing to body weight. Come on, John.
All right.
Good.
Wait a minute, am I doing this wrong? I'm getting
Pull through the balls of the feet and take all the movements at the knee. You want me to put a little more weight on there for you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. I've never done this.
How does it feel?
It just feels like the leverages at the very bottom just kind of make it impossible. Kind of like
About 25 more in there.
Yeah. Is the band strong enough?
I think so.
Okay.
Mike, do you need protective eyewear just in case this band?
Yeah, I might have to. We'll take a bicep, take an eye. Come on, John. Good, buddy. Yeah, so be it nice and controlled all the way up. We might throw another band on there for you next time,
I
John.
mean, it is hard.
Yeah. as you're pulling up and you get to the top, I think we had another band on there, the plates wouldn't be rocking quite as much.
Okay.
Good, buddy. Good, pull through the ball of the foot. Hit it. There we go.
All right. That's it.
Good, man. Then like I said, next set I'll throw another band on there for you.
Okay.
I like throwing on, see how it feels for me.
Feels a really loaded stretch. You feel it most when you're almost fully extended?
Yeah, down at the bottom.
Yeah, right here in the back of the knee?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I feel it all the way up through the hamstring and even a little bit into the glutes, but I almost feel like when I'm doing like your traditional roller pad, I feel a little bit more in the glutes.
Yeah.
As I get to the top. And this is
mostly underneath.
Yeah, mostly hamstring.
Nice.
What's this look, John?
Huh?
You got a weird look on your face.
That's crazy.
It's cool.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm just thinking how many different things you can do with this though, because I'm sitting back here and you probably felt it for a second. I'm glad you didn't see me do it.
Huh?
But I was resting my arm on the damn second there and he froze. So oh,
Where like you kind of made contact with it?
Yeah, I made contact with it, which you froze, which means that you couldn't move it because I put too much.
I did feel. I actually thought maybe you stepped off for a second, started to tilt or something like that.
No, it's just like I was trying to find a good place for my hands, and then it bumped me, and I was just like sitting there. Oh, and then I'm realizing I could actually assist you as well by coming on this. There's so many different cool things that you can kind of create in the gym with whatever you have available to create exercises that no one else can do.
Yeah, because I tell you, the nice thing about this is like we did this for years with just a band.
Yeah.
And the hard part is to really tell whether you're making progress or not when you're using just a band, because one, you're getting different levels of resistance, throughout the tension. When you get down the bottom, it's more, top is less. But also, when you're using a band, if you grab one band 1 week, one band the next, well, it could be a red band both weeks. But if one's significantly more or less stretch, it's going to feel differently week to week. So setting up on the lat pull down has been pretty good for us. Back in the gym, we had like a functional trainer, a cable stack, which was too big to get down here, and we used to hook it up on there, which worked out really well. I think probably a little bit smoother than this.
Okay.
But for the time being, this is getting the job done. Still feel the hamstrings working really hard. Good, man. Nice and controlled. Good, buddy. Very good, man. Ooh. Come on, John. Good, man.
That was it.
Yeah, that's another thing with accessory work. So like my training partner, we were talking a little bit before the camera got on. My training partner Zach's really strong in the legs. So Zach squatted 843 when he's only 20, I believe he was still 23 years old when he squatted. He was 23 when he squatted 843 raw.
Wow.
And so, he would out squat me by about 140, 150 pounds. I out deadlift him by about 140, 150. So it ends up being good training partners because one of us is a little bit stronger where the other one's weak and vice versa. But one thing I like to do with accessory exercises is, so John's a little bit behind me on the sled drag, John's a little bit behind me on this.
Behind you on everything but the hack squat.
There we go.
Because you hurt yourself.
But if you do have a training partner and you start to say, okay, if I'm pulling 125 or 130 more pounds than John and there's some things that I'm doing better than him, those are probably good for him to start implementing into his training if there's a gap there, because people that can deadlift 825 or 850 can do this on this particular exercise. The same way with my training partner Zach. I started getting my biggest progress when I started trying to catch him on belt squats, when I started trying to catch him on other things. And even if he was 20% ahead at the beginning, I would find if I narrowed that down to where I was only 15% behind or 12% behind, then I would see the barbell lift start to come up. So if you do have training partners, they could really be a good tool for you, and you could be a good tool for them by kind of trying to see what each person is good at individually, and then based on where your strengths are and the main lifts you're testing, try and catch each other.
Yeah.
And and so for you, things like a drag, a little bit of direct hamstring work and all that. I know that a deadlift or a squat isn't necessarily the goal right now, but if we were training together, that'd probably be a good idea.
No.
Yep.
Especially sled drags. I'm still out of breath.
A lot of breath from the sled drag?
Yeah, okay, good. Good, John.
Doing good. Fun. Oh, my take on. Bring it in. Good. Finish it, finish it. Nice.
There.
See, I'm doing more weight than this one.
That's it, he's winning.
Oh,
Like getting a high score in golf.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Hup. Good, man. Good, man. Nice and controlled. Hup. Hup. Good, John.
Yeah.
Beautiful, buddy. Nice and strict build, man.
I was like, oh, we have a low eccentric on the sled drag, so maybe he's very sore. What the fuck is
An
this?
extreme eccentric on the hamstring.
Nothing but eccentric.
Beautiful, man.
Come on, do one more shooter rep. Okay, that's it.
That's that. Okay. Here we go.
Style. So.
A little bit of dancing your way out.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mike can handle those moves.
I'm not that good of a dancer. I'll leave it up to Big John.
That's a pretty cool setup, though, especially to progress the lift and regress it.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta let pull down and you just get something kind of soft that can lock your legs in. You don't have to have that. You can figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I even think to myself, like, even if you didn't, we thought before, just even if you take this part off, and like if your machine, like this is from Elite FTS, if it has the capacity to slide the pad in there,
Yeah.
if you put something under your knees,
Yep.
you could use that the same exact way, and not even necessarily have to have a full bench for that.
Yeah.
So,
I forgot about seated.
yeah, I like going seated on them. I feel like you get a little less body English on them.
Yeah?
than normal, and which is a good thing. I feel like when I'm standing up, no matter how hard I try, I start to get bending in the knees and
Yeah.
kind of thrust them up.
What's the advantage of using the wheelbarrow?
So I like honestly with these, like I do.
Because it's cool looking.
Yeah, that is an aspect of it, but I like on this in particular, like I was doing seated shrugs with dumbbells for a long time, and it kind of gets clunky when the weight gets heavier hitting into your legs. So this is a pretty easy setup where you could load it pretty heavy, and no matter how much weight you have on, you know, as the heads of the dumbbells get bigger and longer, you don't really have any contact with the body. And so just an easy way to load things up and, you know, make progress over a long period of time and keep the exercise consistent.
Awesome.
Good, John.
Sure looks cool.
It does look cool. Now at the end, you have to lift it up and then go back and forth down the turf again.
Wait, I think he did say something like that. Did he?
Well, not today, but I've done before, like shrugs, like where you'll do a set of 15, so you can start down here, do 5 shrugs, carry it across, 5 shrugs, and then walk backwards and finish off with 5. And that's a long set.
I've done that with farmers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Pretty sure I've done like 20
Yeah.
at least, yeah. It's great. I love this wheelbarrow thing. You guys do remember that he hurt his bicep earlier in this video. How's it feel?
Actually pretty good.
Awesome. This might be
Yeah.
therapeutic.
That's it. Stretch it out.
You talk about guys who just get to the gym the next day after they injure themselves, you know, get right back on the horse. Mike never got off the horse. He's still working out. Finish the rest of the workout. Let's go! I love this. I'm excited about this exercise. I don't know why. I think this is a cool looking exercise. There's something about sitting there with like a wheelbarrow doing shrugs. It's just like,
Makes you want to scream.
yeah. It's like the barbell bench press is like, in my opinion, like probably one of the worst exercises for athletic carryover, hypertrophy. The only reason a lot of people do it is because powerlifters have to do it in competition and because it's just a bro exercise. It's very easy to measure progress against other people, but as itself, like, I don't think it's a great exercise.
Yeah, it's caused me a lot of discomfort.
Yeah.
And some of that is just being a younger guy and kind of neglecting technique. But like you talk about a bro exercise or younger guys, a lot of them are going to neglect technique. But yeah, I've gotten, even when periods of time when I'm trying to put size on, I've gotten more out of dumbbell pressing, weighted push-ups, flies.
Yep.
You know, back at times when I was training places that had machines, out of pressing off of machines, I've gotten a lot more as far as putting some size on over the years off of that stuff than bench pressing. Because there's like a limit I find on the bench. Like if I do 2 or 3 hard sets of pressing, I pretty much, on the bench press with the barbell, I pretty much have to cut it off.
Right.
Because I'm riding the line of something hurting me on the next 1 or 2 sets.
Yeah, you can't get what you need out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So this all started out with John admiring your traps.
Yeah,
and then it went to
traps off camera. We went to a bench press conversation,
which is valuable. People love the bench press.
They love the bench. And bench, I mean, it's a good exercise, but
may not love you back.
Yeah, it may not love you back, and it's like I said, it's beat me up pretty good, and you know, trying to get back into it, but I have to keep the volume so low on it because as soon as it escalates, it lets me know.
Tendinitis in your elbows, right?
Yep, and my pecs, shoulders. I don't know. I feel like I could recover from a mass amount of volume on other exercises, but when I'm benching with the bar, my pecs could stay sore for 5 or 6 days afterwards.
Yeah, you love this exercise.
John's just gonna keep going.
Yeah, you've been going the whole time.
I did 29. I couldn't do 30 without it not moving. I was just 30. Damn, no 30. At 29. Oh, you know you went to failure when you stop at a number like 29.
That's it.
No one stops at
You
9.
never programmed a set of 29 on anything, John? Not intentionally, right?
Yeah, you're smarter than you think you are if you do that. That was a real strength workout. All those movements were different for me, and I really enjoyed that, thank you.
Good, I'm glad you had a good time.
But I do want to pick your brain a bit more because some of these videos we do, guys, are more like long format. They're more like, think about it like working podcasts. I don't do a podcast. I don't have plans to start a podcast. But this is like working with some of the best, and we're just kind of like working out, and then we're kind of talking. So you can see time goes at the bottom of the video. Something that you told me at the beginning of this, before we started actually working out, that really impressed me, was that you started working out when you're 13.
Yes.
You're 33 now.
Yep.
And he started working out when he was 13, and he wanted to save up money at that time to start his own gym, which you saved for what, almost 10 years?
Yeah, from 14 until 23.
He saved up his money when he was just turned teenager to start his own gym, which he did in his early 20s. I find that really fascinating that someone had that much foresight in what they wanted to do so early, but also like, how many 13-year-olds are so disciplined with saving money? Like, what did you do to earn money at that time anyway?
At the beginning thing, it was you know, put away birthday card money, stuff like that. I mean, I didn't have a job at that point in time. When I really started, you know, being able to save money to start the gym was right around, I'd say probably, well, I was 18 years old. You know, when I got into school, I became like pretty much all the time a 3-job person. Yeah. And so I was the strength coach at 2 different schools at 18. Looking back on that, I was like a kid coaching kids. Yeah. So there was definitely some good learning experiences there. And then also waiting tables, warehouse jobs, things like that. And pretty much any opportunity I had to work, I would go jump on it with the plan of one day being able to work for myself.
And would you just, as you were doing all those jobs, were you kind of watching your account grow? How did you know how much money you needed to save?
Well, I had a kind of a dream equipment list of what I wanted to start. And it was a very small list, you know, but it was basically bare bones of what we needed to start the gym. And I'll tell you, we started with a very, very small amount of equipment, but we started with really great people. I mean, like the kids that started our gym were, I mean, really the most sensational people that you could build as a foundation. Wonderful families, super dedicated, probably maybe as far as, you know, discipline, my best era of kids. And so when you know, we got the gym started, we didn't have very much, but we had great people, and that kind of helped things grow, and that lasted for 10 years. As the equipment side got busier, I really couldn't serve 2 masters. And so I was working, you know, 40 or 45 hours a week for the equipment business. Yeah. And then about 30 hours a week or 35 at the gym, and that just became too much. So we ended up closing the gym down, but I'm fortunate to still have some great kids that come in and out and still stay connected with them.
You closed the gym how long ago?
It closed in November.
In November. So you had the gym for about 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, and his equipment business, guys, if you don't know, is Power Center. So check out the website. It's in the link in the description below, as well as it's been on the screen a few times. But I've been collecting your equipment, and a lot of the Strongman equipment you see in my videos are his. It's very high quality. And, you know, another thing, this is just kind of off topic here, but kind of on topic, something I really liked that we had a conversation about was how smart it is to think about your training, where it's like you're thinking about, you know, what is every, like, is this set going to hold me back from the next workout? Because I feel like most people, they watch these motivational videos of these guys like going hard, and they just see the highlights of these guys like killing themselves in a gym. And they feel like if they're not putting that amount of intensity into their workouts all the time, and if they're not like killing themselves all the time, they're never going to like get where they want to get. Whereas you're like, well, why not have a plan?
Yeah.
Why not have a plan?
Yeah.
And, you know, this doesn't have to be like a cookie cutter template plan. It doesn't have to follow the rules of like, oh, all the powerlifters do it this way. You create your own plan, you know, just based on, you know, what you know about yourself and your own experiences. Make something up so that you know that when you're training today, why did we do 3 sets of that instead of 5? Mm-hmm. Why did we have a few reps in reserves here instead of like, why did we just go balls to the walls forever, you know? So just the way you kind of structure your training to know that like, well, I have this coming up, so why would I do that here? You see what I'm saying? I like that.
How do you go about structuring your training? That's something we never actually dug into.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to touch on what John was saying real quick before we kind of go into the structure of training, I think everyone eventually gets to the point where they're going to have some aspect of their training individualized for them. So I think a lot of people are capable of doing that on their own, but I think, you know, coaching an individual lifter is a lot different than coaching a team sport. So I find a lot of times the best coaches of lifters really talk to the lifter and extract the information and make that individualized plan for them. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're coaching a team sport, you know, you're a football coach, you got 11 kids on each side of the ball, plus the special teams, things are gonna have to be a little bit more broad. So when you look at the best coaches, they have the ability to pick exactly what you need, and they're always listening and they're always getting input. So like when I was coaching people more regularly, I would ask them a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. How they feel after training sessions, you know, was a big question as far as the recovery aspect of it. So I think everything ends up having to be individualized at some point in time, and the further you get along, the more specific it has to be to you. And I think everyone's capable of finding that. What's worked for me is I like a concurrent plan, meaning that, you know, we're training multiple abilities throughout about a 10-day period for me. And I found that 10-day period is really like the cycle that I recover well in.
Yeah.
I think I could probably cut that down. If I wasn't on my feet so much and I wasn't working so much, I might be able to shave that off a little bit with my current work schedule.
Yeah.
That's about how long it takes. So like say we just trained the lower body work today. Generally, if I'm training on Wednesdays and Sundays, the first Wednesday would be a higher volume session. That would be the first Wednesday. And then that next Sunday would be a dynamic session. And then the following Wednesday would be a higher intensity session. So the goals of the volume session, which would be session number 1, is to accumulate a bunch of work in weak positions usually. So that's going to be not like a regular deadlift or a regular squat, but you know, an RDL front squat. I really like box deadlifts with the calves on the bar, you know, off the PR platform. Things like that, and you know, kind of like a moderate level of intensity, but accumulate a bunch of work in these weak positions. And then even the accessory work on those days are going to be higher volume on the accessory work. So after that day, stress is fairly high because you've accumulated all this work. When we go into a dynamic day, so, you know, of course, power development is going to be part of the plan there, but it almost serves as active recovery because there's going to be a pretty big decrease in stress because the weight is moderate, volume is fairly moderate. And then not only the main exercises, but also on the accessory exercises, I choose things that are easier to recover from. So like right now on that day, like a big bulk of my volume after the main lifts is going to come through reverse hypers and hanging leg raises.
Yeah.
Kind of decompress the spine, not beating me up very much. They're super easy to recover from. And then that day, so we have the high volume day, and then we move into that dynamic day. The next day is going to be a high intensity session, which is going to be a strength oriented session. So, you know, depending on where I'm at in a cycle, I'm going to be lifting weights in 85 to 100% range. The volume is going to be super low. And usually on that day to help with recovery, most of the accessory work is cut out. So it'll be like 2 main movements, and I usually do a carry on that day.
Okay.
And so that happens within a 10-day period. And then I usually tie 3 10-day periods together 3 waves together to create a training block. And that training block lasts 4.5 weeks or about 30 days.
Yeah.
And so then I build on that block with the next block to create a training cycle. A training cycle usually lasts 3 or 4 blocks. So it'll be like 13.5 to 18 weeks.
Yeah.
And exercise selection. So like, say we're just talking about the deadlift. The first block may be off of a deficit against some bands. The second block may be just off of a deficit. The third block may be just a stiff bar or a foo bar off the ground. And then the last block may be a deadlift bar. So the exercise selection is actually allowing me to lift more weight. I'm getting stronger because the training is progressing properly, but the exercise selection is also allowing me to lift more weight just because I'm moving to variations that are a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And like, so as I'm lifting heavier at the back end of a block, then you have to think about how these other days tie in. So the volume days, I might start a training cycle off with RDLs and box deadlifts, and then as the weight starts getting heavier, transition into a good morning for a volume block, for a volume day for one specific block. And then that last block might just be by feel. If I come in and I'm a little bit beat up because I'm deadlifting heavy with the deadlift bar, I might cut a good morning out and just move on to a back raise, to allow for recovery. So as the exercises become heavier and heavier and heavier on the intensity day, I'm purposely choosing exercises that become lighter and lighter and lighter on the volume day and kind of crisscross that. So I'm still getting an adequate amount of volume in for hypertrophy, or at least to maintain the muscle that I have on my body, but it's not tapping into recovery for the other days.
Gotcha.
And so that pattern has worked really well for me. And that pattern of volume, speed, intensity. And I've tried a couple different ways. So when I first kind of started arranging my training this way, I had the thought process of, going where I would start with a speed day and then a volume day and then an intensity day, kind of like ramp up.
Yeah.
But I would just never recovered from the volume
So
work.
made a sandwich out of it instead of a pizza.
Yeah. and it just once I got past that volume day, I was never recovered for the next day.
Gotcha.
And that's really, I think, depending on what you do for a living. Like I said, I'm on my feet a lot and I'm moving a lot. I think things can change, but that's what's worked best. That's what's worked best for me up to this point. And I think from a recovery standpoint, like you said, I think a lot of people see the screaming, the yelling, kind of the highlight reel.
Yeah.
And I was always amazed when I was a young kid. Like I know you're going down to see Dave Tate, so when I was a young kid, I was like an avid Elite FTS reader, and I would read all these training logs of all the guys and everything. And I can remember looking at some of these training logs as a young guy, and I would think to myself, they're not doing very much.
Yeah.
These were world-class lifters, and I was doing 10 exercises or 12 exercises. And then as time went on, I realized they are doing a lot. They're just smart.
Right.
So these guys aren't beating themselves into the ground.
Yeah.
So maybe they're only doing 3 or 4 things, but those 3 or 4 things are on purpose. And those 3 or 4 things are exactly what they need and nothing else, because they're lifting weights that if you start throwing in fluff volume, all it's going to do is take away your ability to perform rather than add to your ability to perform.
Right, I think it was, the butcher the name, Zatorsky, I think. One of the sports scientists from, back in the 80s, trying to find the minimum amount of work that you can do to get the maximum result.
Yeah.
So it's a really smart way of going about your training is to go, what's the least amount I can do for the best result? Mm-hmm. And that's where you start looking at every set. And that's why you're looking at papers like, there doesn't seem to be very much going on here, but that's because they knew exactly what to pull out of their training that was fluff, that was causing them problems recovering and what was going to hurt them downstream. So I think for you guys watching, I think a good starting place is just to write something down. If you don't, and just write something down next to it, so that you kind of create like these columns and kind of look, and a plan isn't there to scare you, it's just there to be realistic. And something I really like that you said was working with Mike here and off camera talking, he's realistic with, the amount of work that he can actually do. He's not like basing his work volume and his workloads off of his superhuman, like super motivated, thoughts that he has when he's, feeling his best. It's like, dude, I'm on my feet a lot. Maybe my microcycle should be like 10 days instead of, 7, 8, or 9. Mm-hmm. And then I'll put 3 of those together instead of 4, 7, instead of weekly blocks. That way he doesn't have the amount of work repeated so often, because a lot of people get stuck in a 7-day block and then they're locked into that because their schedule. But you can make it work around it if you're like, no, I got to extend that a few days. You know, maybe instead of a 7-day block, try a 10-day block. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you hit the nail on the head. I think people get stuck on that idea that training has to operate in 7 days.
Yeah.
You know, you look at maybe one of the best pullers of all time, you know, KK, Constantine.
Yeah.
You know, I unfortunately passed away, but I can remember reading some training stuff from him, and you know, it was like he was training. I might be close to this. I might not be exact, but he's like deadlifting heavy like once every 14 to 21 days.
Yeah.
You know, and then he would take this massive amount of time off, and if he didn't feel good, he just wouldn't pull. And I remember reading that, and a light bulb went off, and I was like, you know, if I'm supposed to deadlift on Friday and I feel like garbage, I just still drive to the gym and deadlift like garbage.
Yeah.
Why? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like I know, like I'm sure you've had the same experience. Like you go to the gym and you know the session's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And probably happened when you're younger more often than now. Like you know it's not going to be a good day, but you just do it anyway.
Right.
And so, you know, you put a thing up on social media the other day about asking people if they keep a training log.
Yeah, I was just curious.
And he was curious about that, and I actually.
What'd you think of that?
Well, I voted on it. I do keep a training log.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's interesting because I think a training log is a necessity.
Yeah.
I really do.
I noticed you have notebooks floating around.
Yeah, all my kids log all their own training.
There we go.
Here and there, yeah. I guess you voted that you log your training.
Yes.
On paper.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually like writing it down.
Yeah.
And you know, and so I have all my training log. The book gets filled up, throw it in a box, and pull out the next one. But I think if you log your training, you know, you could actually start establishing patterns. And I think not only logging what you're doing every day, but how you feel every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, and if you see, hey, like, you know, you feel like you're super recovered, like, I mean, really, if you're supposed to squat every 7th day, and now all of a sudden you're a young person, or your lifestyle's changed to where you have less stress in it, and you could squat a day earlier or 2 days earlier, that it might be on the other end. It might be a good thing.
Yeah.
You can handle that extra work now, which is going to help in the long run. But if you don't actually write things down, and you don't actually pay attention to how you're feeling, then it's really just guessing.
Yeah.
And unless you have a super brain to where you can make these mental notes and just remember the dates and exactly how things went. So I think if you log your training and you make logical decisions based on how you feel, you could start establishing that pattern of having your own thing going on.
Yeah.
And I tell you, like, your training doesn't have to look like everybody else. So, you know, I was a pretty avid reader in my early 20s when there was just more time, you know, than there are now. But I got in a little kick for a while reading Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Emerson's smart, and I'm going to butcher this because Emerson's smarter than me, but you know, he said something to the effect of there's principles and methods. Mm-hmm. And an individual that chooses methods based on principles could choose whatever methods they like, and they'll surely have success. But if you choose your methods wildly and not based on principles, then you'll surely have failure. There's things you have to do in your training. You have to have a progressively stronger stimulus. You know, you're gonna have to choose the right exercises. And those are the things that everybody's doing, but it doesn't have to be arranged exactly the same way as everybody else. And with that being said, it probably won't be arranged exactly the same way the entire time that you train.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm guessing that, I mean, I will still be training as long as I'm here. I'll be training at 45, 55, 65. I'm probably going to have to make some changes up until that point. So not only is it going to vary for the individual, but it's going to vary throughout your lifetime too. So if you're choosing principle-based methods, you listen to how you feel and you adhere to those things, you know, you could create a program for yourself that works really, really well. Yeah. And not get stuck in that box of having to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and not being afraid to try some things.
Right.
And I think, you know, I think sometimes people are afraid to give a shot at something because, like, you know, nobody else is doing it,
right,
or they're afraid of failure or something like that. And I think that's kind of a bad way of going about it, because even if you screw up, you know, I mean, what really in the end of things, you don't hit a PR when you want to hit a PR, like, it's not the end of the world. You just come back and do something different and make it happen, and it'll taste a lot better after you missed it the first time too.
Yeah.
So
I find that trying, well, for me, it was kind of a necessity because I started off with the acrobatics, and then I moved on to weight training and bodybuilding and mixing the two. You can't find any information online on how to do that. So out of necessity, I had to invent shit. Mm-hmm. Because, like, how do you mix these two things? Periodization is the key. But then how do you periodize these two things? But throughout the process of doing that and figuring it out, I found that the pioneer spirit of, well, no one else is doing it, I have to figure it out.
Yeah.
This goes back to when I opened my first website. Nobody's teaching people how to do flips online. I'm going to be the one to do it. But first I have to learn how to do the moves. Okay. So now I'm motivated to learn to do the moves so I can write the tutorials. But that pioneer spirit is really motivating. It really gives you kind of like a new drive. And I feel like that's the way it is with programming as well. It's just like, okay, principles. Now you can make your methods, but a lot of the method making can be done based on shit you invent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, even like with you saying that, as I was saying that, I was thinking about you as a young guy.
Yeah.
Figuring things out on your own. And I think, even with the amount of content that's on the internet now and social media right now, I tell you, I think there are definite huge upsides of that. I think even just mentally, frame of reference, when you just see the amount of strong people are out there, it really helps. I think it's helping people get stronger. I think there's no more big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Like the guy that squats 500 at the local gym and everyone's jaw drops, but in reality, he's, getting out squatted by 400 pounds from someone one state over. So I think I think that's a good thing, but with the amount of information that's out there, I think there's less figuring things out for yourself. I think people become a little bit more reliant just because the information's there.
Right.
And so, like when I was younger and I started, my first powerlifting meet was in 2003, so like the internet was there, but it wasn't like it is.
No.
It wasn't now. So I actually, in my very first powerlifting meet, won a subscription to Powerlifting USA. And so it was a 12-month subscription.
Back then it's pretty exciting.
Now, oh my God, I was fired up, you know? And so like I kept these magazines in perfect condition and I read them over and over again. And, they would have like the workout of the month and all that stuff. And so, you would read the articles and you would read all this stuff and you'd have to actually go through that process. If you would read something, you would incorporate it into your training, see if it worked, see if it didn't work. And I think that was kind of a cool time.
Yeah.
Because you were willing to go out and actually try some of this stuff on your own. So I think there's tons of information out there now. I think a lot of it is applicable, but I think nothing can really beat extracting the best parts of that information for you through trial and error.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Mike, thanks for having us in the basement.
Absolutely.
And
yes, sir.
Again, guys, check out Mike's information, check out his website, and I hope you guys learned a lot from this because now I'm going to turn off the camera and go pick his brain some more while we eat some steaks.
Yep, that'll be good.
All right.